either. But as we start working these calves in a minute, as Curt's rides over there toward them, what are they doing? It's always fun to me to watch what the cattle are doing as we're over here yammering around and getting ready to go. As he rode toward them and rode away, they all started looking at us. And so they're always ready for us to give them a signal on what we want to do and actually move off pressure. Now that nobody's over there close to them, they're ready to go back and relax. Curt, you want to talk anything before we get started?
Sure, wouldn't mind. I think it's real important, as you said, how to start cattle, and but we never really got into, the whistle's really not probably the best way to start cattle.
No, it works pretty good for him.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, that's everything. So to me, we have to fight this human urge. Like when it's time to eat, when we have these, when the dinner bell rings over here, we're all gonna rush over there. We're all just gonna get right in line and follow each other up through dinner, through the line. Everything that happens here, we get in line. When you got on the buses last night, you all got in line, you got behind each other and you pushed each other up on the bus. And that's kind of what happens with the whistle. You just go in there and you shove the cattle. And the thing is, if you're trying to gather pairs, the cow has to be able to take your pressure, but keep her mind on her calf at the same time. And if you put too much pressure straight behind her, she's trying to hunt you up, and then she runs off and leaves her calf and loses track. Same thing with yearlings. If you go start a bunch of yearlings and you put too much pressure on the back, they're really not ready to leave. And then you're driving cattle the whole way. But if you start cattle right, I think you start them where the lead starts and they drag the rest of the cattle on. And that's what you call stringing cattle. And if you're shoving from the back and the front doesn't get it, doesn't know they're moving, then you bunch cattle up and they want to kind of do this on you. So what we want to try to do in our gather, and I don't care if it's a little intensive grazing program that you gather in the afternoon, the way you approach those cattle, the angle and the speed of your approach, the cattle tell you to do that, but that's a way different way of getting cattle started than just going and coming in behind like we do with a lot of people and just shoving them. And I think that's a really important thing we got to try to figure out. So here, this is not if these cattle would have been right here where they were before, we could have had a real nice way to show it how to gather that. And I've been to Ron's place a lot of times, and he gathers just this way. You go out, you get to where you're kind of towards the back of the cattle, and that's always depending on where you're headed to, where the back of the cattle is. And you start, if these are the cattle, if Ron's the herd of cattle, instead of me going around behind those cattle, I would think about riding right through his hip. That would cause him to go forward. His horse sees me on his left eye. The cow sees me on their left eye. Now he's waiting for me to come through. As I'm right here, he's going to turn his head to the left, and he's going to actually start going that way just a little bit. As I ride through, he turned his head back this way, and now I've straightened my animal out. Now I ride along, and there's more cattle here. I keep a straight line. Everybody starts going forward. I turn and come back. He's moved forward 4 or 5 steps. Now I ride right through him again, and now I've created this flow forward from the back, kind of like dominoes, and that movement goes right through the back of your herd to the front, and the front says, oh, we're going somewhere. They have time to make up their mind, and that creates a nice flow to where you're going. Once you get those cattle started, then you want to drive them in a way that keeps their mind on you, but on their destination as well. So once you get them started, you don't want to be behind them so much as on the side. The trottier your cattle are, if they really want to move, then you want to move yourself up farther forward in the herd. If you're by yourself or don't have many people. If you have a pretty good crew, you can position yourselves to kind of get the cattle to stay in the formation you want, keep the speed you want. And one of the great things I think about Texas is that they lead cattle. And they're very, very good at leading cattle. Is that right? I don't know if that's all parts of Texas, but a lot of places I've been, you don't take a bunch of cattle somewhere unless you lead them. And what that does, it teaches those cattle to start hooking on to the person leading them if they do it right, if they're not on their dang cell phone, not paying attention, and they're just in the right position to keep those cattle's mind on them, but check their speed up and get it to go. And pretty soon they learn to follow, and they'll hook right onto that. That's a great drawing pressure, and the rest of the crew, all they're trying to do is keep the minds flowing towards the lead. And that to me is a real professional way to start cattle, and they learn how to flow, and then they want to go where they're going rather than yeah, hoo-ha, chasing and whapping and making them go. So that's what I think starting cattle right is all about. Now, if you have real trotty cattle, the flatter your angle you approach with, the less pressure you're putting on. If you have real gentle cattle, the more steep and the more aggressive your angle is, the more movement you'll put in them.